Which coffee maker do you actually go for? There's various pod machines, various espresso machines out there. The prices vary from 50 or 60 pounds right up to hundreds, even thousands of pounds. So I've actually chosen machines myself. I've not got loads of money, so I tend to work to a relative budget. I've learnt the importance of investing a decent amount of money into a coffee maker. So we're just going to discuss my choices. My original machine that I've used, I've made 20,000 coffees out of this one over 6 years, and it's done so faultlessly without a problem until recently, so I will mention that. And I opted to go for a different kind of machine. So we're comparing the Delonghi EC680 with the Smeg ECF01. So the interesting thing about both these machines is they seem identical in terms of mechanical parts. The portafilters, the water reservoirs, the drip trays, everything is completely interchangeable. It literally looks like they've gone to the same factory to produce the insides and the nuts and bolts, and all they've done is changed the styling on the outside. So is that the only difference between these two machines? Well, I've had this one for 20,000 coffees, and it's made fantastic coffee. I've been really pleased with it. You have a good crema on top of the coffee, that lovely caramel coloured layer on top of the coffee. And this one does the same. I would say that the Smeg machine is a little quieter. It could be down to the fact that this is 6 years old and it's made 20,000 coffees. If I was a coffee maker and I'd made 20,000 coffees, I don't think I would be making the same noise I did when I was new. One of the key things though with both these machines is not to let the reservoir run dry. If the reservoir runs dry, you put an extra strain on the water pump. You can hear it making a horrible noise as it tries to pull water through. And as the water goes through, it helps to cool the pump mechanism. So you can burn out the motor or cause problems just by allowing it to run down. So part of your morning routine really is to just check the water reservoir and make sure that both of these machines are topped up. You've got very, very similar controls when it comes to the steam wand, and the way you program them is identical. So the programming system is quite clever. It's a series of lights. Press and hold the steam button, and then you'll select one of the other buttons, and you can change the water hardness with the first button. So if you live in a soft water area, you'll press the first button after you've selected that. If it's a medium water hardness area, you'd press the middle button, and surprise, surprise, if you're in a hard water area like we are, the water is so hard here, I have to wear safety protection in the shower. So you press the third button, and what that does, it determines how often you should descale the machine. And you'll get a flashing amber light coming up, and there's a program that the machine will run through if you follow the sequence. Now I'll do another video on descaling these machines. I've got to wait till the orange light comes on before I can do that, but I'll make sure that I go through the process of descaling these machines. Don't use a kettle descaler. These machines have got lots of plastic components, plastic parts, rubber seals inside them, and a lot of the kettle descalers are so harsh and so severe they'll cause damage to these machines. So make sure that the descaler you use is specifically designed for these machines. Now I found that parts from these machines, the Smeg parts tend to be more expensive. The Smeg machine tends to be more expensive, but in most cases you can use parts from the Delonghi. So if you're after a new portafilter, bottomless portafilter is a really good investment. So these bottomless portafilters, they're really good when you've got very fine, fresh coffee. So both of these machines run at a fairly high bar pressure. You don't tend to get the bar pressure that's advertised on the box, but they're sufficient to produce a really nice tasting coffee. But sometimes you'll just struggle. The machine will lock. It won't be able to push through water. You get that with all types of machines, but these two have been the best, the most resistant to that I've found. But the bottomless portafilter, there's less of a restriction there, so the coffee can come out more easily. So if you are extracting fresh beans, if the beans are slightly moist, they're starting to clog up quite easily. You really do need a bottomless portafilter, and it also enables you to see what's going on as the coffee actually comes out of the bottom. So it's good fun. They are a little bit messy because they've not got the nice channel underneath them that these machines have. The coffee tends to spray out a little bit, but you can buy a little guard that goes in there just to channel the coffee so it goes onto the cup more easily. Another advantage of these machines is also that they take pods. They take the ESE pods. Now they're like little round tea bags, and they really cater to people that don't want to clean the machine. To be honest, these are a doddle to clean. I just use a spoon, so I'll take the coffee out. I'll just get a spoon in there, scrape that coffee out, run it under the tap, and I'm ready to put fresh ground coffee in there again. I prefer to use fresh ground coffee. There's more variety out there. You've got more control over the grind and even the roast of the beans. Whereas with pods, your choice is always going to be limited by the pod manufacturer. So ESE pods are fairly standard. They're not quite as popular as the Nespresso pods, but even Nespresso have moved on to a new type of pod because it seems that everyone under the sun is producing those. And you can get a double shot of coffee in each of these. I don't think I've ever used the single shot coffee portafilter holder at all. But these are both great machines. They're not at the cheapest end, but I would still regard them as budget espresso machines. When you compare them to the quality output you get from the much more expensive machines, these are certainly up there. They can compete with them, and they're much better. They do allow you to adjust the temperature. So the middle option will allow you to set a temperature of the water that's coming out. Now, personally, I tend to set that fairly low. It depends on the grind and the bean, but in most cases, I get better flavors out of the coffee. It's more about the pressure than the actual temperature of the water. Some of the very cheap espresso makers and espresso machines, all they do is boil the water and they push the steam through the grinds. So that's a little different to having a mocha pot on your stovetop, which still produces okay-ish coffee, but you can do much better. You have much more control over it with a machine like these. The steam ones on both these machines are pretty much identical. They work very, very effectively. They froth up the milk very, very quickly. Personally, I do prefer to use a wand. When it comes to wands, I've tended to use these Aero Latte ones. I've got a travel one because when I go on holiday, I do like to take it with me. And the nice thing about the travel one, it's got the little plastic holder that just protects the shaft itself. Without that, and without the case, you would probably bend the shaft, and it's going to make it quite difficult. So why do I use these rather than the steam ones on the machines themselves? Well, the steam wand, it's using steam to froth the milk. There's a lot more moisture and water going into the milk. I prefer the nice creamy taste that I get just using a frothing wand, and this really does only take a few minutes in order to froth the coffee up and produce that nice microfoamed milk that I like to put in a flat white. You can get devices that froth the milk automatically, which makes life even easier. So it really depends how lazy you are. The downside of these is you have to put batteries in them. They take 2 AA batteries. I've got some rechargeable ones, so it's certainly not a problem in terms of cost, and the 2 AA batteries will last me quite a long time. And bear in mind, our house does get through quite a shocking amount of coffee. But with both these machines, the steam ones are very effective. They froth the milk quickly, and they allow you to make a decent cappuccino, espresso, or even a flat white. One little tip with buying these is to buy them used. So when you buy them used, one little tip is to just look at the drip tray. 20,000 coffees, only a few coffees. There's a lot more scratches on the one that's been used. So you can tell how used a machine has been just by looking at the photos in the sale advert of the drip tray. And a lot of people buy these machines, they use them wrongly. They don't like the bitter taste they're getting out of it, which is purely down to operator error. And we will be talking about tuning these machines and getting the best flavor out of them in a future video. So be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that. But then these machines end up being sold. So I typically have picked up machines worth about £300 for £150 in the auctions. This one only cost me £60 when I bought it 6 years ago. and the retail price of this was substantially higher. So there are some bargains out there if you know what to look for. Sometimes they break the water reservoir or there's some other problem with the machine, but you can buy the parts really readily. And as I say, the parts are identical between the Smeg and the Delonghi. So in pretty much every case I've looked at so far, you can buy the Delonghi part at the cheaper price and use it on the Smeg machine. So they're two great machines. You won't be disappointed with either of them. It really depends what your kitchen aesthetic is. They both come in a variety of different cooler colours. I've got the black one just because it was the cheapest one that was on offer and I needed to replace it. Now, what was the problem that I had with this machine? Well, the rubber seals inside had gone. It's not surprising after 20,000 coffees. Now, we did buy some more seals. I'll show you the process of stripping the machine down and changing the seals, but I did something wrong because 2 weeks after I changed the seal, it starts dripping water from around the portafilter. So I'm going to have to go back into that. So I'm going to make another video feature on how to repair these machines. But because I didn't have time, because I really like my coffee and I would not function, I wouldn't be able to make these videos if I didn't have my morning coffee. I invested in this, got the next day delivery on it, and I've been really happy with this ever since. And I'm sure this will go on for 20,000 coffees or even more. Was it really 20,000 coffees? Well, 6 years, I've made between 7 and 9 coffees a day. There's 2 of us. On some days, I've had substantially more than that. I went through a period of having a ridiculously high amount of coffee and it was damaging my health. So I certainly wouldn't recommend that. If you're up to sort of 6 or 7 double shot espressos or cappuccinos per day, then you've got problems looming on the health front. But just having a couple of nice coffees in the morning can go a long way to just boosting your alertness, your general well-being and your sense of belonging on this planet. So thanks for watching. Please boot that like button. That really does help us to get out there. And I've lined this video up for you. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, we'd hate you to have trouble brewing. And I'll see you in this next video. Thanks for watching.